Okay, hello wonderful humans. This is an additional video following on from how to deal with anxiety and the top lifestyle, diet, hormonal, peptide interventions you can take for helping manage anxiety. This one is specifically about nootropics and which nootropics can help you in perimenopause and menopause with this anxiety. We're going to put a little bit of context into it. We're going to talk about some neurotransmitters. It's going to be brief, it's going to be fun, it's going to be pragmatic, and you're going to have lots of takeaways. I didn't do this in the original video. Why? It becomes too much material, it becomes overwhelming. We've all got limited time and attention. This is for those of you who are ready to explore nootropics a little bit further. This is for those of you who really just want to say goodbye to anxiety forever and really take control of it. So before I launch into this presentation, let me please empower you with this piece of hope. You have the power to quash anxiety. This isn't purely genetic or lifestyle. You literally, with the steps we've taken in the other video about banishing anxiety, saying goodbye to anxiety, and some of these nootropics that we're going to talk through now, there is literally zero reason you should ever have anxiety again. That's a really big statement, and it's true. So please make yourself comfortable and enjoy this. This is life-affirming, life-changing stuff. I know I talk about this all the time, but let me just draw a quick graph. Imagine this is the vibrancy of your life. And this is time. Every day that you spend in anxiety and not being present and not feeling your best is somewhere down here on this line. When you take control of this and you balance your hormones and you dial in your diet and you focus on your sleep and you take control of it, your life starts to go like this. And it's cumulative. And your intelligence and emotional intelligence increases. And what's really nice is, well, you have these learning phases. Whoa, it goes up again. Because you start to actually see the baggage which has been holding you back and creating this anxiety, and you just dissolve it and move on. And I know this because I've been on a similar trajectory myself. And that's not to say just because I've done it and I've experienced it, it's the same for everyone. Of course it's not. We all have unique brains. We all have unique life stories. But the themes are often the same, and the underlying triggers are often identical. Anyway, enough of this. Let me wipe this from the board. What I'd like to actually point out is the difference between somewhere down here and somewhere there isn't just a nootropic. It's a year of experience, of joy, of being able to focus and participate and actually feeling good about stuff. And that's what I want for you. This is almost like a sliding doors moment, if you remember that Gwyneth Paltrow movie, where lives can be totally different. And I hope yours is for the better. So without further ado, let's jump in. This is nootropics for anxiety, or for saying goodbye to anxiety. Picture this, you feel like you've probably mastered the art of life. You can juggle family, work, maybe even remember where your keys are most days. Then one day, of course, the reason we're all here is hormones tap you on the shoulder and say, oh, hello, Janice, plot twist. Perimenopause and menopause can arrive in people's lives like just simply uninvited, unwanted house guests. And lots of people are surprised about it because they come in and they start to rearrange your neurotransmitters. They can steal your sleep, especially the quality of your restorative sleep. And they can turn things like mild stress, or what was previously a speed bump, into a 3-act piece of theatre, a drama, a tragedy. Anxiety sneaks in, and your brain, which was once your trusted ally, your best friend, your thought machine, suddenly feels like it's beach balling, you know, when it's trying to load things on your PC and you just can't get through. So if you have ever found yourself lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking, oh my goodness me, why do I feel like my brain is both over caffeinated and exhausted at the same time? Who's kidnapped me? Well, you're absolutely not alone. And in this second part of the anxiety module, we're going to explore 4 fascinating science-backed nootropics that may, is what I'm supposed to say, but if used wisely, will help your brain feel calm, sharp, and emotionally balanced again. This isn't an excuse to turn you into a zombie or a lab rat, neither of those things. Ideally, you'll have watched part 1 to this and you'll be exploring part 2 to this once you've got your base fundamentals in there. So shall we meet our lineup of superheroes? Oh my goodness me, I love nootropics. So let's just go through what we're going to be talking about. There is something called Fasoracetam. I don't know why I did dramatic voice for that. Fasoracetam. Fasoracetam. We're going to be talking about Noopept. Ay, 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 Ronito. We're going to talk about Sulbutiamine, and we're also going to talk about a plant extract called Bacopa Monnieri, which is actually very strong. Okay, all of these have got lots of science with them. All of them have got lots of research with them. We will include all research notes at the end of this in the resources section if you're in our course, which I hope you are, because then you get to see all of the materials we're producing. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what these are, where they come from, how they work, and why they are so intriguing to modern neuroscience, and especially their ability to calm anxious perimenopause and menopause brain. Before we dive into each molecule, let's just actually get context and understanding on what's happening upstairs, because anxiety is not simply being stressed. They are similar but distinct and different. Anxiety is something more akin to a hyperactive alarm system in your brain, particularly involving the amygdala, which is your emotional smoke detector, and the hippocampus, which is your memory librarian, who basically totally overacts and overreacts and over exaggerates when estrogen has left the building or is deficient in any format. And in fact, this pathway can also be exaggerated when you're in estrogen dominance in perimenopause. So when hormones fluctuate, neurotransmitters like GABA, serotonin, dopamine, glutamate can all get out of sync. And if you think about them as a 4-piece jazz band, suddenly it's missing its drummer, and the result is that cognitive noise, racing thoughts, discordant reactions, and it can even give you a bit of a restless body. So nootropics are literally mind enhancers. They're not tranquilizers, they're not stimulants, they are modulators, and they help you tune your brain's chemistry to restore balance and resilience, and also to improve performance, memory, focus, presence, and ability to actually get things done. And this is what these 4 compounds excel at. Now, one thing we didn't talk about in the other anxiety module, this newish product called Fasoracetam. Yes, it's one of the racetam family, but it's very different to all the other racetams. Think of this as the calm engineer. The racetams family, quiet overachiever. It was originally developed in Japan to treat vascular dementia, And it didn't quite make it through to the prescription world, but it did trigger the curiosity of lots of neuroscientists. Why? Because it acts on three different neurotransmitter systems. GABA, your calming chemical, glutamate, which is your go, go, go neurotransmitter, and acetylcholine or acetylcholine, which is your memory and focus friend. So what Fasoracetam does is it upregulates something called your GABA B receptors. And this enhances your brain's natural, let's say, inhibitory tone. And it's the neurological equivalent of just simply turning down the mental noise. It's really quite potent. I like it. It's really good when I want to get things done and not be distracted by dogs and cats and a three-nager downstairs and whatever else is going on. Now, the interesting part about Fasoracetam is that it also helps stabilize glutamate. Now, glutamate, it's your predominant neurotransmitter, and it's an excitatory neurotransmitter. And this can go a little bit rogue under chronic stress. It can lead to irritability and panic. And that's why some people react badly to, for instance, oral progesterones. If they're not processing it through the GABA pathway, they're processing it through the glutamate pathway. If we were to summarize, Fasoracetam is like a neuromodulatory spa day. I mean, what a wonderful concept is that? Just 1 second, darling. I'm just going to go on a neuromodulatory spa day so I can tolerate you. Amazing. It doesn't sedate you. It balances these neurotransmitters. And people who use it, including myself, things you will hear them say quite regularly is I feel mentally clear, but very calm, almost like this post-yoga glow where your brain just says, yeah, we're good. Everything is under control. The universe has a massive plan and I'm part of it. So the best part is it actually supports your stress resilience as well. It slows down this return to fight or flight. Animal studies show that it helps the brain bounce back from learned helplessness. The scientific way of saying it, it helps you remember you're not stuck. It helps you remember that you're adaptable, that you have resources, that you have resilience. And quite often people report finding solutions to problems instead of simply repeating, I can't do this, I can't do this, it's too much. Suddenly go, oh, actually, we're okay, let's go get it. So, humour aside, Fasoracetam's profile makes it a really fascinating candidate for, let's call it midlife anxiety. It enhances calm without dulling cognition. In fact, it can improve it. And it's really something that every female dealing with brain fog deeply appreciates. I've heard only good things. Now, just remember, these are not FDA approved molecules. This is not an incentive to take any of these things. This is not medical advice. Personally, I think it's way cooler than that. But enough of Fasoracetam. So Sulbutiamine is our next one. And I really like Sulbutiamine. It's a really interesting story, actually. It's a synthetic derivative of vitamin B1, thiamine. And how it came into play was it was created in Japan in the post-World War II landscape where there was incredible poverty and lack of resources. And they found that people living on a solely rice diet were actually deficient in thiamine. So they created this synthetic molecule, and it's a little bit like putting on a brain jetpack. It is fat soluble, so you need a few fats with it. It crosses the blood-brain barrier with ease, and it really delivers a boost in neuronal energy. It doesn't normally fit in the anti-anxiety molecules, but it does have the side effects of reducing anxiety, which is why I'm including it here. It also, there's lots of studies on this, shows that it can help vanquish depression. One of the reasons it works and it has these beneficial side effects is an anxious brain is often an energy-starved brain. And anxiety burns through brain and blood glucose. And when neurons are tired, they can misfire, leading to irritability and, of course, low motivation. That kind of goes without saying. Sulbutiamine actually fixes that. And what it does is it increases dopamine receptor density in your prefrontal cortex. What does that mean? It just means that you've got more receptors for dopamine, so you can actually log on more dopamine. And this actually improves mood, it improves motivation, and it improves your reward response. So if you've been feeling like you're stuck and glued to the sofa, and frankly, if you don't mind my language, you just can't be asked, well, sulbutiamine could be for you. Now, the other thing that it does is it helps balance glutamate and GABA transmission. And this just like stabilizes your emotional control. And the other thing, if you're really interested in this, I am, so I'm going to share it, is it boosts something called thiamine triphosphate, which is THTP, and mitochondrial ATP. So it actually provides your brain with more fuel. So you can just get things done, you can think clearly, and it's not overstimulatory either, which is really important. In human studies, I think the term is it lifts psychobehavioral inhibition. That heavy, that stuck feeling where you feel like you're crushed by things to do. And for lots of people, they might feel like they want to engage in life, but they simply can't. They don't have the emotional resources to deal with it. And once again, it's not a stimulant, so it does fit into the 5-pointed star Rowan's rule for nootropics. It's more like a gentle, let's get moving nudge for your neurons. Whenever I've taken it, I found myself suddenly clearing my office and getting all of those little jobs done, which have been in my subconscious background, bothering me, just clearing out and creating more bandwidth. So if that's where you are, this could be something you want to try. In perimenopause, where fatigue, fog, and apathy can kind of creep in, sulbutiamine is an easy way to restore your mental brightness without anxiety. And for this reason, it is worth experimenting with. So if you were to compare the two, you would say like Fasoracetam is your calm engineer. Sulbutiamine is your brain's kind of personal trainer or coach. It's energetic, it's optimistic, and it's slightly caffeinated, but in a responsible way. And we'll put together a table with all the dosages in. So which one are we going to go to next? Well, let's go on to scene 4, Noopept. I've heard it referred to as the brain whisperer. Now, this is all to do with dosage. Noopept is best done at a very conservative dose. Noopept is, frankly, it's a superstar peptide. It hails from Russia, like many peptides, and it's about 1,000 times more potent than the original Paracetam. But what does that mean? Well, yes, it's tiny, but it's mighty. And it enhances something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, and NGF, which is nerve growth factor, both of which are critical for neuroplasticity, learning, and emotional stability. So Noopept can work really well. What makes it so remarkable is it's got this multi-system action thing going on. It boosts GABAergic signaling, so it calms hyper-excitable neurons. It modulates something as well, if you're interested, called AMPA and NMDA receptors. So it keeps glutamate in check and you get rid of this stress overdrive feeling. Obviously, we've just mentioned it upregulates BDNF, and this also makes your neurons more resilient under chronic stress. It stops brain cells dying off as quickly, which is always a good thing. Now, very mildly, it activates both the dopamine and the serotonin pathways. And this basically improves mood and pleasure. response. I'll let you make of that what you will. In clinical trials, people taking as little as 10 to 30 milligrams per day reported less emotional volatility, less anxiety, less fatigue, with the additional bonuses of sharper mental focus and improved sleep. So Noopept does not sedate you. It really fine tunes your neurotransmission. And it's a little bit like a therapist, a life coach, a yoga instructor for your neurons, all rolled into one. So what's the final results with it? Well, you get this calm clarity. It helps restore your cognitive control. This is something I've noticed a lot in presentations when you're dealing with lots of questions. It helps you be really centered enough to reflect and respond rather than simply react. It gives you that emotional buffer. And this is really important. This is really important to getting the right outcomes when you're dealing with lots of people in life, especially if you've been tired and not sleeping well and you've got hormones which are volatile. So for females navigating hormonal shifts, Nootepept's ability to enhance resilience and neuroplasticity can make it a really powerful ally for you for long-term emotional stability. And what's not to like about growing new brain cells? All of these things associated with delaying cognitive decline, and there's even talk about it lowering likelihood of things like Parkinson's, but I'll let you read the research and come to your own conclusions. So let's finish up, and we're going to head over to Bacopa Monnieri, which is like some ancient sage wise herbalist. It's the only member of these compounds that we're covering in this module with basically ancient Ayurvedic credentials. It's known as Brahmi. Bacopa has been used for centuries to enhance memory, to help calm the mind, and modern science is finally catching up, because you'll see Bacopa Monnieri in lots of kind of mind lab and nootropic stacks. It's a bona fide, verified adaptogen, which means it helps your body adapt to stress. And it does this, interestingly, coming back to the cortisol module, which I hope you've all watched, especially those of you who are looking to shed unwanted, stubborn body fat. It lowers cortisol. And cortisol is what triggers this belly fat that people are always complaining about. Cortisol, as you know, is the stress hormone that spikes during anxiety in menopause. And actually cortisol, as you're probably sick of hearing me say, if your perimenopause and menopause is a theatre of sex hormones, then cortisol is the stage manager in the wings directing the plot. And excess cortisol can lower your thyroid response and ability to maintain your metabolism, but it also can suppress progesterone. So it's worth remembering this. Now, Bacopa works because it increases both GABA and serotonin activity. So this really stabilizes your emotional tone, and it protects your neurons from both oxidative stress and inflammation. It enhances neuroplasticity, much like Noopept, and it makes your brain more flexible under pressure. I don't mean like physically flexible, I mean biochemically flexible. Now, the difference between Bacopa and synthetics like racetams is that its effects build up over time, and it can take 8 to 12 weeks, but it's definitely worth the wait, because clinical studies show that there is significant reductions in state and trait anxiety scores, and that's after consistent use. That doesn't mean you have to use it solo. You can use a background dose and weave in the other products that we've talked about today. And if you're in the clinic and on the course, you can come in and join the Q&As and ask us about this, because we've got loads of winning combos to share with you. So let's just recap before I get carried away in that. Bacopa is much like that calm, grounded, great friend who says, just take a deep breath, we'll figure it out. You're not being rushed. It restores balance slowly and naturally. In menopausal transitions where stress tolerance and sleep quality are crucial, Bacopa acts as both a mood stabilizer and a bit of a cognitive shield. So when you bring it all together in this beautiful, let's call it a symphony of calm, how do these four products work together in the bigger picture of anxiety? And people call this midlife, but it's 2025. I hopefully like to think we're only 40%, 35% of the way through our lives. But whatever it is, how does it fit in that bigger picture of anxiety and brain health through perimenopause and menopause? So let's recap. Fasoracetam helps balance your GABA and your glutamate. It helps balance mental noise. Sulbutiamine, the synthetic thiamine, it recharges your dopamine and your energy metabolism, and it lifts motivation and clarity. Noopept strengthens both your neuroplasticity, your ability to adapt, and growth factors, so you're growing new brain cells, and this increases your resilience to stress. Great. Bacopa, which we've just covered, it nurtures your stress response system. And this gently lowers cortisol, which is a great thing in perimenopause and menopause. And we see this all the time when we test people's their Dutch reports, that basically they're in this temporary estrogen dominance with suppressed cortisol, poor cortisol clearance because the thyroid's not functioning. And it's all because cortisol is off the charts through to intermittent fasting and HIT and cold water plunging. So this lowering cortisol is a big win on many levels, not just from a body composition perspective, but also from a longevity health perspective, preventing things like intestinal permeability. All of these products together, they form this symphony of calm, and they can help you restore balance across your brain's electrical, chemical, and emotional symptoms. So if you think of it like this, perhaps it's nice to leave you with some metaphors, is Fasoracetam turns down the static noise. Sulbutiamine can turn your lights back on. Noopept will upgrade the wiring, and Bacopa reminds you to breathe. That's not to say try all four at once. What I encourage people to do is always to go away and do some further reading. I would just try one or two. And if it was me, for instance, and this isn't medical advice, I would try Bacopa and see if you get on with it. And if you do, take it consistently and get enough for 3, 4, 5 months to let it accumulate. And as you do that, I'd weave in one day where I do a little bit of Noopept and see how I feel, and then the next day I'd try some Sulbutiamine. And typically there's one that really appeals to you. And you get different benefits in chemical pressures from weaving in and alternating these products. You could do 2 days Noopept, 2 days Sulbutiamine, 2 days of something else, all the time with Bacopa in the background. That really works. So let's just finish up, because I think I've talked more than enough. And let's leave you with basically some humor, some hormones, some hope. Is you can't biohack your way out of menopause or perimenopause, but you can definitely, and I've seen this firsthand repeatedly, you can work intelligently, strategically with your biology to make virtually all the symptoms significantly smoother. And I stand by that. I listen to each and every one of my clients, and I hear things like, my period started again, my sleep's better than it's been in 15 years, I've lost weight effortlessly. These are real people experiencing real benefits. Nootropics like these, they're not magic pills. They're tools, they're supports which will help your brain recalibrate during a period when hormones are frankly freelancing and bouncing around. As the science shows, when you start to improve your neurotransmitter balance, your mitochondrial energy, and neuroplasticity, anxiety becomes incredibly more manageable, not by numbing it, by taking some kind of Valium, but strengthens your brain's ability to self-regulate. And I love it for that. It allows you to be more engaged on your own terms, with more resilience, more buffer to stress, and yet all the time you're growing new brain cells. The next time that anxiety comes knocking, please, and this is an invitation, instead of thinking, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. Remember, it's just your brain asking you for some biochemical tune-up. It's just your body saying, actually, that's just a stress too much for me at the moment. I might need some extra assistance, please. And whether this comes from smart molecules or herbal allies or the mindful lifestyle habits we covered in the first video, the goal is the same, is balance, clarity, calm, and confidence will help you navigate life so much more enjoyably. And here's the final word, I guess. Let's just think of this, and your brain is very much like a garden. It's up to you. You are in charge of cultivating it. These nootropics that we covered, the Fasoracetam, the Sulbutiamine, the Noopept, the Bacopa Monnieri, they're not going to be miracle fertilizers, but they will definitely enrich your neural soil. They will help you balance nutrients, and they're going to help your mental ecosystem bloom again. That's such a great image. I love that. Just the idea of a tropical rainforest full of flowers and fruits, rather than this wind-whipped, angry desert landscape that people can feel when they're in anxiety. I did mention that I'm quite visual, didn't I? Yeah, okay. Remember, with self-compassion, and that includes the way you speak to yourself, this is so important. Do not be your own worst frenemy. When anxiety pops up, you can just welcome it and say, hello, you again, unwanted house guest. I've got the rest of the team working on removing you. You're here temporarily. And this is it. A little bit of humor, some science, a lot of self-compassion. Your brain can thrive and actually be more functional and be more focused probably than any other age. 2025, we've learned so many things. So please, if you take anything away from this, you've got tools. There are science papers proving this. And I am seeing on a daily basis so many people turning their lives around, and that absolutely motivates me to show up more and more. So please don't hesitate, ask us questions. We're here to help you. You don't need to do this alone. Thank you so much.